All right, so we are officially recording. All right, so as I mentioned, my name is Raquel and I work with dualenroll.com, and we partner with CWI to assist them with curriculum alignment and student registration. But today, what we're going to look at is the student registration piece. So we're going to take you through the student part, right? All of the things that a student would see or would do as part of that enrollment process. And then we're also going to take you through or show you the high school instructor's role. My understanding is that many of the people on the call today are high school instructors who have likely gone through the dualenroll.com system as part of the curriculum alignment process, where you were getting a certain course approved to teach for CWI. You might have uploaded a syllabus and had a communication with a mentor and all of that jazz. So if you have a dualenroll.com account that you've been using as an instructor to kind of facilitate that curriculum alignment process, the great news is that you will be using that exact same account to log in and to see the students that are trying to take your course, as well as approve those students who are requesting your particular course. So you will not have a second account. You will be using the exact same dualenroll.com account that you already have for all of your instructor materials. You'll just when you log in, your instructor interface will look just a little bit different now. You will have a students tab and access to kind of student information as well. So we're going to look at both of those today, kind of the students part and then the new interface for the high school instructor when they log into the system. I will pause at certain times for questions. Again, if you have any questions at any time, you can certainly type them into that message box and I'll read them aloud, and Shannon or I will go ahead and answer those for you. All right, so dualenroll.com login screen, couple of things. The student is actually the one who gets the registration process kind of going, if you will. They start the process by going to the correct website, the URL for CWI, and either logging into their existing account or creating a brand new account if they are a new student to kind of dual enrollment and registering for classes at CWI. So dualenroll.com works with colleges all over the country. CWI is one of those colleges. And every single college that we work with has their own website or URL. Looks like Jasmine just asked that question. So the correct URL is the one that you as instructors have been using. It is cwidaho.dualenroll.com. You do not need to write that down or memorize that. We are creating some resource documents, like a one-page handout for the students and a one-page handout for instructors. That kind of takes you through these steps, step by step, with some screenshots. And those one-page resource documents will have that website right at the top in big red letters. But it is cwidaho.dualenroll.com is the correct URL for the CW Idaho Dual Enroll website. Today, if you were to look at the website that's on the screen for me, it's cwidaho.stage.dualenroll.com. So mine is slightly different because this is our testing environment, right? So this allows me to create a fake student by the name of Brad Pitt, let's say, and take him through the process and show you that process, but not actually register Brad Pitt at CW Idaho. So this is our testing site. It matches the live production site like 98% match, right? There's a few things that are a little bit different here and there because it is a test site, but the majority of what you will see is going to be exactly the same when your students or you go to the actual live site, which again is cwidaho.dualenroll.com. So the student gets the ball rolling by going to that correct URL, and then they're either going to log in with their existing credentials. So if they were a senior this year, and let's say last year as a junior, they did this whole process and they already have a dualenroll.com account, they're just going to enter in their username and their password, and they will go right to their account. If they are a brand new student and they've never registered for classes with our system, they will click on this link. It says need a login, click here to create one, and that will take them then through creating a new account. It looks like Shannon does have a message to all that says that they're going to send out the correct URL again in an email that will go out sometime this week to you guys. So again, you will be inundated with that correct URL for the CWI site, dualenroll.com site. Okay, so a couple of things. The system is browser agnostic. So basically what that means is if you or your students can get to the internet, you can get to our site. So it doesn't matter what browser the students use or you use. You could use Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer. It doesn't matter what device you use either, smartphone, tablet, desktop computer. As long as you can get to the internet, you can get to our website. So the students will go ahead and do that. And then again, they'll either log in with their account from last year, or they will create a brand new account. If the student has an account from last year and they don't remember their login information, they don't remember their username, they don't remember their password, there is a link right here. It says, forgot your username or password. And we encourage the student to go ahead and click that link to try to reset their password. We don't want them making another account, right? We want them to use their original account that has their classes on it from last year and just kind of add to that class list for this year, the classes that they're trying to teach, or I'm sorry, trying to take. They can also click on the red help desk button, which is way up here in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner. And we'll go through the help desk towards the end of the training, just so you can kind of see what it looks like to enter a help desk ticket. But the student can do that as well and just kind of send us a message that says, I don't remember my login information, and we will be able to get that to them. So there are some links there for them to access an account that they have forgotten. The other link that's down here is about a text confirmation code. So that is more for students who are creating a brand new account. So they've never done this before, they don't have a login, they're gonna go ahead and click this little link. Part of the account creation process is not only do they have to create the account, but they have to confirm or activate that account. And they do that one of two ways. You'll see here in just a second, because I'll demonstrate a brand new student, but they can confirm or activate their account with either an email or a cell phone. They have the choice to give us one of those two things. They can certainly give us both. But if they gave us a cell phone, we will send them a text message with a code in it. And they will have to click this link, and then they will have to enter in their cell phone and that code, and that's how they confirm their account. So when a student is creating an account with dualenroll.com for the first time, it's not just that they have to create it, they also have to confirm it or activate it. The account will not work until it's been confirmed or activated. And again, they do that with a text code to their cell phone or via email if they've given us an email address. So those are kind of the general housekeeping items on the login screen. We're gonna move forward with a brand new student. We'll pretend that this is a brand new student who has never registered for CWI courses before, never used the dualenroll.com site. So they will come to the URL, they will click this little link right here to create a new account. And this is the account creation screen. It's pretty standard if a student has created an account for just about anything, iTunes, Yahoo. Account creations are pretty standard. You have to give us at least some basic information for us to create your account. Any field that is marked with that little red asterisk is required. They will not be able to create the account unless there's something in that field. So the first thing for the student to do is select their high school. They will see a drop-down menu of high schools that CWI is working with. So CWI gives us this list. We populate it, so we see all the high schools that CWI is currently working with. I know we're adding a few more here, but I'm gonna go ahead and pretend that my student, my test student, is a Skyview High School student. So that's the school I'm gonna select. And then the student has to create their own login, their username, and their password. So it can be anything that they would like. So we're gonna pretend our test student is Roy Biggins. And I'm just gonna put today's date on there so I remember when this test student was created. Okay, first name, last name, date of birth. Sometimes it takes them a minute to use the calendar, but we will select a date of birth. I feel like I typed my password wrong 2 times, in which case I'm gonna get a little error message that the password doesn't match. And then down here, you'll see preferred method of contact, provide at least one. So the student does have to either give us an email address or a cell phone. I would say most students give us a cell phone as their preferred method of contact. You'll notice that the little red asterisk is there, but if I give you an email address, and I'm gonna do that so I can show you the emails on my screen, and you check this little box that says, I prefer not to give you my cell phone, that little red asterisk will move up to the email field and you will have satisfied the requirement that way. So we're gonna pretend that our test student, Roy, has gone ahead and tried to create his account and given us all the required information. We're gonna check that I am not a robot. And then he's gonna click this register button at the bottom. And again, that's not registering for classes, that is registering for an account. He actually needs a dualenroll.com account to continue with the process. So I'll go ahead and click that, give the computer a minute, and you'll see that the message that pops up now for our test student is it says you've successfully signed up, but you have to check your email for instructions on how to confirm your account. So again, they have to confirm or activate their account before it will work. Because our test student gave us an email address, I actually have to hop over to my inbox right here and check my email for our test student, Roy. So you'll see that here's the email that Roy got. It says, welcome, Roy Biggins. You can confirm your Roy Biggins 0822 account by using that link below. A couple of tips and tricks again. When students use email addresses, make sure they check their junk or their spam folder. You'll notice that this email is kind of an auto-generated email. It comes from noreply@dualenroll.com. So sometimes the first email that we send winds up in their junk or their spam folder. So if they're saying that I never got my confirmation email, please have them check those folders. If they find it there and they mark it as not junk, then moving forward, everything seems to be fine. The other thing to realize is if a student uses a school-issued email address. So some high schools issue all of their students an email address. So I could be roybiggins@westottawa.org. Make sure that you talk to the high school's IT department because sometimes those firewalls or filters, they're pretty restrictive and they might actually block dualenroll.com emails from coming through, which is no good. We're trying to send the student the confirmation email and the high school's IT department or firewall is so restrictive that we can't even get that to them. So you might want to communicate that to your IT department if you are directing students to use a school-issued email address. All of the emails throughout the process that we send to both the instructor and the parent and the student, they will come from the domain @dualenroll.com. And so if your IT department knows that, they can usually mark that as like a safe domain, which will allow those emails to come through. So just a couple of things we've learned. As I said, most students use a cell phone to confirm their account, but if they use an email, just be aware of that. For our test student, it looks like Roy got that email, no trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the confirm my account link as my test student. And you'll see that when Roy does that, it logs him right in, right? So his name is up here. There's a logout button. That red help desk button is ever present. And what Roy is seeing right now is the first step of pre-registration. So pre-registration steps, you'll see that there are 6 of them along the top of the screen. Step number 1 is highlighted because that's the step that we are currently on. But pre-registration is exactly like what it sounds like. They are screens or information that we have to collect from the student for CWI prior to them being able to register for classes or see classes that are open. So the first thing that Roy has to do is complete all of these pre-registration steps. Now, the great news is this is a kind of once and done thing for Roy, right? He's only getting these because he's a brand new student. He didn't have a dualenroll.com account, so he had to make one, right? So this is the first time he's ever been through the process. That's why he's getting these pre-registration steps. Once Roy fills these out, we will not ask for these again, right? So the next time he logs in, he won't see these pre-registration steps. He'll go straight to his status screen or his courses screen, but the pre-registration steps are just filled out the very first time that a student creates an account with us. So like I said, it's one and done. You'll notice that there are 3 tabs up here. There's a status tab, a courses tab, and a profile tab. We'll look at those in just a minute, but right now we're going to get Roy through the pre-registration steps, all 6 of them. You'll notice that we've already populated any information Roy gave us. So he gave us his name, he gave us his email address, he gave us his date of birth, and so all of that information is already there. Again, anything with a red asterisk is required, so I'm going to go ahead and enter in some test data. Okay, the EDU ID number, it's my understanding that it's a state-issued ID number that students kind of take with them throughout their educational career. It's not their social security number, it's another educational ID number that they are issued, and that most students know that number. I guess some high schools require the students to use that to access, let's say, the computer lab or the library. If the student doesn't know that number, it is my understanding that they can access that number either through the counseling office or maybe the high school teacher themselves can get to it. Shannon, do you need to add anything about the EDUID number?
Nothing other than the fact that we are just trying to implement this with regard to a request from the state, because the State Department of Education uses this number for fast forward reconciliations. So it should make it a lot easier for counselors when they're having to go through line by line the hundreds of students to reconcile portal requests versus CWI registrations.
Perfect. So I've gone ahead and filled in the rest of the required information for our test student, Roy. A couple of things. The graduation date is really, I think we're more concerned with the year. So Roy is going to be graduating at the end of this academic year, 2018. You know, I don't think we're going to hold him to the June 3rd date. It's just the fact that we know the actual year that he will be graduating. So I'll go ahead and click on next. If any of the required fields were left blank, it would not allow the student to move forward. There would be a little red error message that will pop up. Actually, I can just show you that real quick. So you'll see I unchecked the race. Race is a required field. It says you have to check one race before you can move forward. So I'll do that and then click next. The second step of pre-reg for our test student is to basically agree or accept the CWI terms, agreements, conditions, etc. So there is a lovely piece of verbiage right here for the student to read through, all about participation in the CWI college courses or dual enrollment courses. They do have to check this, I have read and agree with these terms and conditions before moving on. If they try to click next and they have not checked that box, it won't let them. That little red error message will pop up again. They'll probably read it as closely as they read those iTunes terms and agreements, but they do have to check the box. So I'll go ahead and check that for Roy and click next. The third part of pre-reg is for the student to identify up to 2 individuals for which CWI can release records. So this has to do with FERPA Privacy Act, a Federal Privacy Act for students, and colleges are not supposed to be sharing information with anybody but the student unless the student has given their permission. Now, obviously, CWI will be communicating with the high school. That is definitely a legal move. And the high schools will be communicating with parents. So it's not like the parents are going to be in the dark. But if the student were to type the names of their parents here, it basically allows CWI to communicate with the parents directly should that be needed. So it kind of cuts out the middleman. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a father for our test student, Roy, and go ahead and click next. The fourth step of pre-reg is has to do with residency. So there are some counties that have been pre-populated. Again, these lists, the list of counties was given to us by CWI. If the student happens to reside in one of these counties, let's say Ada, that's all they have to do is just select the particular county that they reside in. If they are not a resident of one of these counties and they click other, then it does say that you're going to have to follow the link below and fill out the residency form. So if they are not in one of the counties or do not reside in one of the counties listed, there is an additional form that that student will need to fill out, and it is linked or listed right here. For the sake of getting through the presentation quickly or the training quickly, I'm going to go ahead and pretend that Roy is in fact from Ada County, and so he doesn't have to fill out that additional residency form. I'm going to go ahead and click next. The fifth step of pre-reg is for the student to kind of give us a contact email address for the parents. So we will be sending, the system, dualenroll.com, will be sending some emails to the parent to let them know what's going on with their student's registration. For instance, as soon as a student selects a class, we send the parent a, just an FYI, your student has begun the process of registering for English 101 at CWI through their high school. Just wanted you to be aware, right? We will also send them a message asking for their consent to take that course. But it's really kind of a notification as to what the student is doing, right? The student is starting this process off. So we will be asking for an email address for that parent. So I'll go ahead and fill that in. Okay. And I will click next. And then the last step for pre-reg is for the student to go ahead and identify their guidance counselor. Again, I believe most of the high schools will be having their instructors approve students. So if Roy Biggins decides to take a math class and a history class, his math class will go to the math teacher for their approval or consent. And his history class will go to the history teacher for that history teacher's approval or consent. But it is helpful to know who the guidance counselor is. There are times that the guidance counselor needs to look up information or perhaps run a report, and so it is helpful to have that. There will be a drop-down menu that will have the names of the counselors at that particular high school only. So you'll see that right here it says Roy is a Skyview High School student. That's not editable. We already collected that information for him. So he would only see counselors that are available at Skyview. There is an I don't know and a not listed, which would just basically make sure that all the counselors could see Roy on their login screen. So I'm going to go ahead and just, again, on our test site, not very interesting data, I'm just going to pick Skyview High School counselor, which is what's on the test site. It looks like Jasmine has a question about the parent permission. It says, are parents required to give permission in response to that email? So in the past, I believe that parental consent was required for the registration to move forward. Shannon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we are removing that requirement. So the parents will still get that consent email. They will still have the opportunity to give their consent. But if they don't give their consent, it will not prohibit the registration from moving forward. So you won't kind of have them get bogged down waiting on the parent consent. Is that accurate, Shannon?
Yes, that's correct. It's more of an acknowledgement now from parents that they've read the terms and conditions that are surrounding CWI's dual credit program, but it will not hold up registration. We found that we only had a very small percentage of students that do not have parent permission to do it, so we would just deal with those one-offs on a case-by-case basis if those should arise. And I also wanted to just ask a quick question, Raquel, about the counselor page that you're on right now. Would you just confirm for me that counselors who have already had access will continue to have access, but it'll be on a read-only basis, and those counselor information points will already be in the system, correct?
That's correct. So if a counselor had an account last year or 2 years ago, those accounts are still active. We will just not be sending the tasks to the counselor. So they won't actually have to go in and do the approvals. Their login will still work. They will still be able to see all the students and get information. So if a parent called the counselor instead of a high school teacher, the counselor has access to all of that information as well as to the reports. And those accounts will still work. They just won't be the active account for completing the tasks, like approving enrollment.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click finish. That was the last pre-registration step for our test student, Roy. So I'll go ahead and click finish. And as soon as he finishes the pre-registration steps, again, he'll never see those again as long as he uses this account, continues to use this already created account. Those were just kind of a one and done because he was a brand new student, brand new account. He is brought to what we call the course finder, which is actually the courses tab. So of those 3 tabs on the student's interface, he is on the courses tab. We call it the course finder. Again, this is probably not 100% accurate for Skyview. If there are any Skyview folks on the call right now, this is our test site. So we try to have a nice smattering of classes available to choose from. But it is restricted by high school on the live site. So if Skyview High School was only supposed to have open to them a biology class, a communications class, a math class, and maybe some of the IDLA classes, then that's all they would see. They wouldn't see accounting, they wouldn't see business. A student who goes to Skyview, when they click on their courses tab, will only see the courses that are open to Skyview students. So it is restricted by high school. The icons are there to show the students like what kind of a class it is. If it's taught at a high school, my understanding is most of these are going to be taught at a high school. The IDLA ones might be online. Students are not registering for the classes at the college campus through the system right now, but that's what those icons mean. There are a bunch of filters along the side, so if the student had a huge list of courses to choose from, they could start to filter them by keyword, like type in English or type in biology to kind of whittle that list down. We find that most students don't have a monster list of courses, right? It's a relatively manageable list. And so they don't need to use those filters. They are certainly there. As you can see, even this list is quite manageable on our test site for Skyview. So for Roy, I'm going to pretend that he would like to take this biology concepts of biology class. So to kind of indicate that, to start that process, Roy's going to go ahead and click on the hyperlink that says the title. He will be brought to the details for that particular course. And again, we basically show what college or what CWI has given us. So we know this is a 4-credit class. There might be some, information in here. Here is the teacher. Here is the location. And so for Roy to say, I want to take this class, he's just going to go ahead and click on this register button. There is a save course button down here. This is one of the areas that our test site differs. We are in the process of removing that. We found that to be a little confusing for students. Saving a course is not registering for it. It's kind of like putting it in your shopping cart but never checking out. So saving a course allows a student to kind of save 4 or 5 courses that they're interested in. They talk to their parents, they talk to their high school, they talk to their teachers, and they decide which 1 or 2 they're going to actually take, and they register for those 1 or 2. So on the live site, this button won't even be there. The only button available for students to click on will be this register button, which is exactly what they should be clicking on to indicate that they want to take the class. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that as Roy, and while my system is processing that, I see there's a question that came in from Jasmine. It says, with students that are transferring between high schools, should they sign up as a Columbia student, for example, versus signing up at their home high school? So I'm sure that Shannon can jump into this. If the student has actually changed home high schools, then they'll have to let us know, and we will relink their account to the new home high school, like if they've moved. If they are a Columbia high school student who has been given permission to take classes at Skyview, we would still want them to choose Columbia as their home high school of record. But Shannon and I would have to work to make sure that those Skyview classes are viewable or open to them. So for every section, we can delineate who has access to those classes, whether it's just Skyview kids or Skyview has a partnership with Columbia and allows the Columbia kids to come over and take those as well. So I believe that's how it would work. Shannon, do I have that right?
You do. Another good example of this would be Meridian High School, who offers an ag class to all of West Ada students who have permission to travel to Meridian for that one particular class. So we open up just that one ag section to all of West Ada students so that when they get in, they will actually see the ag class on their list of courses, even though they're not technically a Meridian High School student. So they would use Mountain View High School as their home school if that's where they attend full time, but the Meridian class would still show up for them.
That's correct. Yep. So they're going to use their home high school, and we will make sure that the class sections are built correctly to be available to the correct high school students. So I see Jasmine's clarification. Any transfer student that I have, I need to email Shannon and make sure that it's open. I believe, Shannon probably already knows that. Like if this is kind of the same drill, that Skyview always lets Nampa students come over for their English class, then I'm pretty sure that the English will be set up that way. If it's a new kind of arrangement, then maybe Shannon would have to be aware. But yes, Shannon would have to be aware so we can make sure that that section is available to the correct high school student. Okay, good questions. So back to Roy, our test student, you'll see that when I clicked on that biology class and I clicked on the register button, he was brought to what we call his status screen. There's a message that says you've added that biology class, and he can see right here under your dual enrollment courses, there is the biology class with teacher Jack Dawson, right? So I can see the class. I can also see kind of what's going to happen next, right? So the parent's going to get an email, and then the high school instructor is going to have to approve that. If Roy wanted to add an additional course, right? All he has to do is go ahead and click on the courses tab. He brings him right back to this big old list, and he just picks his next one. So let's pretend he'd also like to take communications. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this as Roy. Again, he'll see any information that CWI has given us about that particular class, and then he'll go ahead and click register. And when he does that, he'll be brought back to his status screen in just a second. And he'll see that communications was added, and now he'll see 2 classes listed, right? These are the 2 that he is requesting right now. So that's kind of it for the student part of the registration process. They are really responsible for going to the correct URL, either logging in with an existing account, so their username and password from last year, or creating a brand new dualenroll.com account. If they do create a new account, they're going to have to confirm or activate it and then go through those pre-registration screens before they can select courses. Students who already have accounts, when they log in, the first thing they're going to see is their courses tab, and they can look at the courses for this year and add them. The other tab that's up here, just for the record, is the profile tab for the student. This is where we store all of the information that Roy, our test student, has given us. So this was the address he gave us, the phone number he gave us. Here's even the email address for his dad that he gave us. So if that changes, or maybe he would like us to email his mom instead, he can come to his profile screen and just go ahead and change the parent email and then click update profile. You guys as high school staff are also able to get to the student's profile. In your case, you would just have to click on their name. So if you were to log in, I can show you as the high school counselor, let's say, or the high school instructor, and you see all these students. If you click on Roy Biggins' name, it's a hyperlink, it will bring you to his profile screen, and you can see his address, his parents' email address, etc. So those are the three students tab. Profile, courses is where they see their course list and select. Status is where they see what classes have been added and kind of where they are in the process. And that's really the student's kind of part of the registration flow. Again, there is that help desk button if our student gets into trouble, and they can enter a help desk ticket that will go straight to dualenroll.com for some support. But that's kind of it. So I'm going to pause right here to see if Shannon has anything to add about that student process, or to see if there are any questions. If there are questions, I think it's working really well to have them typed into the chat box. So I'll just pause right here, see if Shannon's got anything, and we'll wait to see if any questions pop up.
Nothing from me, thanks.
Yeah. I'll just wait just a couple more seconds here to see if anybody's furiously typing a question in that hasn't yet popped up on the screen. Okay, I don't see much, so I think we might be good. I'm going to kind of switch gears then and show you what the instructor piece would look like. And so this is one more thing. I thought it was going to be ready this week on our Sage site, our testing site, but I tried this morning and I didn't see it. So I'm going to have to show you some screenshots instead of live footage here, but I do have the screenshots of this process. So what's new, and what I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the training session, is that this time the instructors are able to improve the students that have picked their class only. So, you know, the math teacher is not going to see the students signing up for history. He's only going to see the teacher or the students that are signing up for his math class, right? The science teacher, same thing. She is not going to see anybody except for students who picked her science course. And we're going to ask that instructor to approve those enrollments for those particular students that are requesting their class. So I'm going to log out as a student, and I should be back on that login screen. So here I am again. It says you signed out. Roy, our test student, is kind of done, and the next person can log in. So that would be the instructor. So you, again, if you already have an instructor account, which I think many of you do, as you used it through the curriculum alignment process, uploading of syllabuses or syllabi and meeting with mentors and such, you're going to use that exact same login. So you'll use the login and the password. Let me jump to my screenshots instead of the live site. So you'll log in. Here was my test instructor that I was working with for my screenshots. Same login screen. His name is Joe Instructor. So he logs in. And what's going to be slightly different when you log in as an instructor is you're used to seeing a profile and a status tab. And the status tab is still the default. Like when you log in, the first thing you're going to see is your status tab. And the status tab is all about your course review, your curriculum alignment, right? So Joe Instructor, it looks like he's trying to teach history, accounting, and philosophy. Like, wow, he's got quite, you know, the repertoire right here of classes. So that's what he's going to see is the curriculum alignment, the courses. And you'll see that he's got some stuff to do. He's got to meet with a reviewer. He's got to upload some documents. But what is new is that he has an additional tab. And so the additional tab that he will have is a students tab. And if he were to click on that tab, he will see a student list, right? So he will see the students who are choosing his philosophy course or his accounting course and be able to do the approvals for those students. So again, this was done a while ago, these screenshots on our dev site. You'll see this with a test student. He's trying to take accounting. And here's the high school instructor approve the enrollment, right? So that is the step that the instructor would click on to be able to complete that task. I encourage you to go ahead and play with some of the filters up here. You can sort by term. Again, because this is the first semester that we're doing it this way, there's not a lot of back data or history data, but as you use it more and more, you can go back in time and look at the students from last semester or last year. There is also a filter that says view all terms. So if you wanted to see what Roy Biggin has done over his entire high school career as far as dual enrollment is concerned, with you, you'll be able to click on all terms. You could type Roy's name right here into the search box, and it would show you everything that Roy had done with you over the last couple of years. Maybe he took accounting one year and business the next year. So the filters are quite helpful. There is also a way to batch process. So right now, it looks like we only have this one student that is waiting for the high school instructor to approve them. Let's pretend you had 10. You'd have to click on each one at a time. Or if you change this view by filter from student and you change it to step, it would give you one step to click on and a table with all 10 of those kids on it. And it would have the kid's name, the course that they want, and then a yes, a no, or decide later button for you to click. So you could go just right down the line, yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, and approve a batch of students at once. Again, this would be so much better if I could show you on our live site, but it doesn't seem to be there. I'm going to have to chase that one down because I thought it was going to be there this week. But this is exactly kind of what it would look like, and those resource guides that we are putting together for the instructors, just like we're putting together a one-page resource guide for the students, it will have screenshots of that. This is how you batch process. Change the filter, it'll look like this. So those will be on those resource guides as well. So your part as an instructor, your new task is to just make sure that you log in, that you click on your students tab, and that you are approving the requests for those students that are choosing your course or requesting your course. And it would look like this if you did it one at a time, right? Here's the student's name, here's their course that they want, and here's the yes, no, or decide later. As I said, if you were to do that in a batch, this table would just be much bigger. Right now, there's only one row. You would just have multiple rows, one for each student that was requesting the accounting class that you teach. So that's kind of the major change to the instructor's part or piece, is that they will also be doing the approvals for any student that requests their particular class, and they will have that students tab available to them on their interface. We are also working to get a report tab. I'm not sure that that will be there by fall. It might actually have to wait until the winter semester or spring semester, but eventually we would also like to add a report tab to the instructor's interface that would let you run things like rosters or like which ones are completed, which registrations are completed. Because we are doing a full data integration with CWI this year, which is also new, after you approve that student, after you say, yes, I give you my blessing, the student can take my class, that registration will travel through a data exchange from dualenroll.com automatically to CWI, and we should be able to get an automatic response as to whether or not they were enrolled. So it will just happen a little bit more quickly. There won't be as much of a lag time between the students getting all of their approvals and everything done and actually getting enrolled in the system. It will be much more automatic or quick because of that data integration, where we're just sending the data back and forth between the two systems. So again, the student can log in at any time and click on their status screen and see if that particular registration is now listed as complete. You as an instructor could log in and look for a student and see what's going on with their registration and see if it is now complete. Even the high school counselors will still have access to view that information. And the student will still get a text message or an email at the end of the process that says, congratulations, you have been successfully enrolled in Accounting 201. And so that's kind of their notification that everything has been done, right? Your high school has given their blessing, the information has been sent to CWI, and you've actually been enrolled in that course. So we always tell kids to be on the lookout for that congratulations message, and that's how they will definitely know that their registration is complete. They are enrolled in that course. Shannon, do you have anything to add? Because that's kind of my spiel on the on the instructor piece, kind of the new part of the instructor piece.
I do have one quick piece. If the report feature is not available to the individual high school teachers and counselors, is that something that we as the dual credit office will have access to still this semester?
So you will definitely have access to the reports, and the counselors will still have access to their reports. Those aren't going away. So the counselors will have access to the report. The trouble is that a counselor, if they were to run those reports, it's going to pull all the students in the high school. So the kids taking history, the kids taking math, the kids taking English. Now it is an Excel report. So in theory, if the English teacher was, I just want to see my kids, the counselor could sort that Excel list and just look at the English ones, you know, and send that over. But really what we want is a report tab for the instructors, so the instructors can just run that report by themselves and only see their students, not the whole high school students, right? So we're not taking the reports away from the high school in general. They are still there for the counselors. The counselors will still have access. We're just not sure if we can get that access to the instructors that quickly. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I could take, you know, requests from teachers if any of you would like to have the report run. I know several of you last year asked me to do it just on a daily basis. And while that's not ideal, I could definitely spend the first, you know, half hour, 45 minutes of every morning for those of you who'd like to send me requests during this registration period. It's only 2 weeks, so, or even a couple of days, you know, every couple of days, give you an updated report of your students. But I wanted to point out that I don't know how frequently the integration takes place or the transfer of data takes place, but I know it's at least a couple of times a day. It might even be, you know, on the hour, every hour. So if you wanted an accurate
I think it's usually
report,
on the hour, every hour. Just to let you know, that's usually our window. So yes, it would be updated on their, what is it, My CWI account?
Yep, if they'd like an updated report, it might not happen right at the moment they approve those students, but if they'd like to go in at the end of the day and log into their roster through My CWI, all of those students should be there on their CWI roster. And I'd give it a day, you know, for those straggling ones at the end of the day, but that would be a really good indication of whether or not the student, you know, completed their registration process, and you have that roster information at your fingertips at any time.
Yep, and you know, it's not perfect because it's not a report, but if you clicked on the Students tab, you will see all of your students. But what will happen is the ones that are in, the ones that are on a roster, the ones that are ready and good to go, it would say complete. So all it would say was Roy Biggins, Accounting 201, and there would be nothing over here except for one word, complete. So could you just look through your list and say complete, 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 and kind of get an idea of how many of your kids are done and in the class? You could. I know it's not a report, I know it's not ideal, but the data is there. It will say complete, and that means that they are enrolled. And Shannon is right, because of the data integration, and we are going to be communicating faster with the enrollment system at CWI, you could absolutely log into your My CWI account and look at the roster through that system. And you could do that maybe in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the evening, and that would give you a good sense of which ones have gone through that day. Since we will be communicating with that data exchange frequently. Yep, good questions, good clarifications. Again, we will be following up with the resource guides. So I'm gonna whip those into shape and get them to Shannon so she can kind of proofread them, make sure they look good before we forward them on to you. But we will be giving you a resource guide for the students that you could print off, a one-page document that will basically have the URL, and it will take them step by step through what they have to do. It even has some screenshots on there so they don't get too lost. And then again, we'll have another one-page document for the instructors, kind of taking you through this process too. You know, log in, click on your student tab. This is how you batch process, or this is how you do them one at a time. So be on the lookout for those. That information will be coming soon, and it's there to help you through that registration process. Before we jump off the phone, I would like to just take a second and go through the help desk. But before I do that, I will pause right here and see if there are any questions about kind of the new thing that the instructors can do as far as what their interface would look like, the Students tab, and their responsibility for approving those requests from the students. So I'll pause, I'll see if Shannon has anything to add or if there are any questions that pop up. No, I don't see anything. Again, there might be somebody furiously typing, so I will keep an eye on that chat box for the next couple of minutes here, see if one pops up. But the last thing I'd like to do before we cut to loose is to just go through the help desk. So that help desk is there for everybody, right? It's there for the instructors, it's there for the counselors, it's there for the parents, it's there for Shannon, if Shannon at CWI logs into her account, and obviously for the students. So it is ever present, the big red help desk button. And so if you or a student or a parent clicks on that, they will be brought to our help desk. We happen to use a company called Zendesk that helps facilitate that. These three tabs right here are where we would put articles. So it's kind of like frequently asked questions. If we notice that students keep asking the same question, like, how do I change my parents' email address? We might actually whip up an article about that, so we've got the information very quickly accessible. So a student could say, okay, I'm a student, I guess I click here. How do I change my parents' email address? There's a little PDF that they would click on, and it opens up the article that we have written on how to do that. So hang on while my system opens it. There it is. And it basically says, all right, log in, click on your profile tab, go all the way to the bottom, and that's where you can do it, right? So it's like a little one page, how do you do that? So the help desk is a place where we store those kinds of frequently asked questions that we turn into articles, so that way we can send them more quickly or get that information more quickly. The student certainly doesn't have to be trying to find an article. They can actually type a question in here, like change parent email address, and the system will try to find things that match, right? But if the person's like, look, I don't have time to read articles, I have a problem, I need help, all they have to do is click on this submit a request link right here up at the top. And I wish that sucker was bigger and flashing and like neon to bring your attention to it, but unfortunately it's not, it's a little guy. But if they were to just click on that link, and again, anybody, an instructor, a student, a parent, you know, a college staff member, if they were to click on that, they will see basically a form that they fill out that creates the ticket for us, the help request ticket. Anything with a red asterisk is required, and so it's really just 3 things. The rest of it is optional. The more information we have, the better, but basically we need an email address for you so we know how to communicate back to you when we fix the problem, right? So an email address, usually like a short title, like can't log in. And then the description is where you can write something longer, like I was a student last year, I don't remember my login, I tried to click the password reset button and it's not working, please help, right? So that would be the longer description if you'd like. Again, if the student can type their name, or if it's about a particular course, maybe the teacher for that course, if they can give us their high school, if they can tell us they're trying to do a CWI course, like the more information, the better. But at a minimum, I need an email address, I need what's the problem, and we can kind of work with that. There's also a way to attach files. So if you're seeing something strange, like a wonky screen, you could even take a screenshot of it and attach it to your ticket so we can see it too. But again, at the minimum, we just need to know an email address so we can write you back, and then what the issue is. So you would fill in at least those minimum 3 fields, and you would click this little submit button. You'll get an email from Zendesk. It's going to be support@dualenroll.zendesk.com, but it'll say dualenroll.com in there, and it'll say, okay, we've received your ticket. Please wait, you know, for our response. We normally respond within 1 business day. So that's our typical turnaround time. If it takes us a little bit longer than that, we try to send you a note that says we're still working on it, we haven't forgotten about you. But most of the easier requests we can take care of very, very quickly. And we have a number of people who are working on the help desk, so that way, you know, not one person is getting swamped with all of the requests and we fall behind. So I highly encourage you guys to use the help desk if there is an issue, to direct students to the help desk if they have an issue or a question, to enter in a ticket. Obviously, you've already got my name and my phone number and my email address. It was all on that GoToMeeting invitation that I sent you. It's on my signature line, and you are welcome to reach out to me directly through that email address or through that cell phone number. And I'm happy to help. Our job here is to make sure that the registration process goes as smoothly as possible. So I don't want to make you feel like you can't reach out to me, like you have to enter a help desk ticket. But help desk tickets are awesome because we have more than just one person looking at them. So if I am on vacation or super swamped for the day, it might take me a bit to get back to your email, whereas a help desk ticket might be answered a little bit more quickly. So you definitely have a variety of avenues to get some assistance. I know that Shannon is obviously always available too if there are questions or concerns. So that's kind of it for my my spiel, if you will, my training session. If you hang on, nobody sign off just yet. Shannon had a great request. She's asking me to take a screenshot, thanks to the reminder, Shannon, of all of the attendees today. So before you all drop the call, give me a second to grab those the attendee list. So Shannon knows who was here. But Shannon, do you have anything to add as we are wrapping up?
I am good. I think you did a great job with the call and the training, and I appreciate your time as well, Raquel. I know it's a busy time of the year for all of us.
Oh yeah, it's definitely busy, not a problem. So I'm almost done. Stick with me one more minute. We got a lot of attendees today. Okay, I think I got them all. So I've got everybody on the attendee list that was registered or attending the session. And as Shannon said, we really appreciate you taking your time, giving us some of your time today for the training. I know that like it makes sense while you're in the session, and then when you actually have to get in there live, you're like, what was I supposed to do, or where was I supposed to click? We expect that. Life's a little crazy. So if you have anybody who, if you or somebody else that you know is having some problems as they get into the live site, please reach out to us. We're happy to do a little refresher, answer some quick questions. Mandy, I do see that you had multiple people on there. I did grab a screenshot of that, so thank you again for the reminder. But yes, I did capture that you have multiple people on your one phone line, and I will make sure that Shannon gets that as well. So that's about it, guys. I appreciate your time. If there are any other questions, I haven't seen anything pop up in the window, but you're certainly welcome to email us or submit a help desk ticket. And just be on the lookout for information from Shannon, as well as from me. We'll be sending about those resource guides and stuff for your use as soon as that registration opens. All right, have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, Mark has a question about how to access the video. So I'm going to convert the recording and I will send it to Shannon, and then Shannon will be able to send that out. So give me at least an hour here to get that video converted and into a file that Shannon will be able to send out. Good question, Mark.
Thanks, Raquel.
So Shannon, I'll send that to you this afternoon. Yep. All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time. Have a great rest of the day and a wonderful school year. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.